Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are recording our change management and agile environment class today. This is second academic period, and this is the lesson 3 for the second academic period. Today is March 4th, and today we'll have two wonderful students sharing their experiences with agile environments. We're going to have Roxana, okay, and then we're going to have Iurii sharing a little bit about their experiences working with agile environments. And then later on, we're going to be divided in teams, in virtual teams, and we're going to be sharing with each other which are those change management models that we found. And then again, we're going to go back to our PowerPoint presentation and we're going to continue developing the change management topic. Okay, guys, are the instructions clear? Very good. So Roxana, I'm going to make you a presenter. And then after Roxana is done, we'll make Iurii a presenter. Here we go. Thank you so much. Let me see. Roxana, you should have access now. Let me know if you do. I'm going to mute myself. And now we are in your hands, dear Roxana. You're the expert. So we're very looking forward to learning from you. Go for it.
So, first of all, can you hear me right? Okay.
Yes, we can
Well,
hear you.
I will tell you a little bit of which kinds of agile projects do we have. I will start explaining a little bit of framework. So framework, it's some kind of methods or settings that each kind of project could have, depending of where are you working or how you want to work. The ones that I've been working with and that I guess are the most famous one are Scrum, Kanban, and Extreme Programming. These are methods or approaches to develop software into everyone has his own way, but follows the iterative way of an agile project. The Scrum breaks it into smaller parts called sprints, and it has like its particular roles and like the character and the task that each person of the team member has to do. We also have Canva that it's more focusing about, it's really similar to Scrum, but it's more focusing on into a table. And I will be explaining each one of those. We also have Extreme Programming that is literally trying to avoid most of the documentation, and it's more focused into all the communications, meetings, and everything. This is an example of a Scrum task board template. Usually this task, it's also like not just the task, but has their meetings, has a chronogram, has many things to do, needs to have a user story, and needs to have like each step of the process. If it's to do, it's been in process, if it's stayed in testing, or if it's definitely done. The Kanban, it's really similar, but it like doesn't have as much documentation as Scrum. Usually it's really interactive. This is an example. We have, when we're working, we have different kind of stakeholders. And it depends a lot if you're working for develop software for your own company, or if you work into a house of software development for outsiders companies. So if you're inside your own company, it's way easier to communicate, to look like, oh, well, like if I work into a, for example, Toyota. Toyota needs like a software to all the parts of each car. And if you work at Toyota and you've been working there for time there, you know who does each thing, who knows about every step of the process that you want to start a new software processing. So that helps a lot to avoid mistakes, to check who really knows about what you need for the software. In those cases, the changes are less expensive because from the beginning, you have a lot of flexibility because you have like an easy way to get information. When it's an outsider, that gets really different because you have a limited communication time. You don't have like all the personal people able to you to talk every day or to ask like, hey, about this, do you think that it's better if I made it this way or that way? So it's really hard a little bit to get all the requirements done. Also, the mistakes correction used to be really expensive, but not necessarily for the outsider, for your client, but for you, because if you don't get the requirements correct, it's really hard. And sometimes people tell you what they want to have, but that's not necessarily what they need. Also, it's pretty necessary to put like a limitation of time and resources. Because, for example, we have a company, a small company with just 20 members, and they need like a little accountability thing to have the inventory, to have everything online. But you start making the whole process. You put an administration user, you put every single step, and you make a really complex thing. And it results that the company doesn't have many people to be able and to be sure that that software will be supported. At the end, they won't be using it. They won't even be able to use it because they don't have the matchings for it, the people for it. So it's really it's really necessary to have everything well delimited. We have this diagram that I have to find from one of my classes that told me that the cost of change, it's like an exponential curve. Like we have different phases during the process that are practically during all the process, no matter which methodology we're using, we have those steps. We have the requirement gathering, we analyze, we design everything, we start developing, and then we start testing and developing. When we are already developed something, we have already code made, and we already have everything in a point that you can say, well, I just need to fix a little bit of bugs and that's it. And then the client will be like, oh no, that wasn't like that. I need something else. And you don't understand what I told you. That means that practically you need to start one over again. So that practically doubles its cost. Of course, that agile methodologies avoid to increase that cost a little bit, but it's still being pretty expensive. We have, I wanted to show you like the Scrum process and a little bit of each step. We start having like a vision, like what does the client need? What does the client want? And we start to say, well, how the user is going to do step by step, and how do we want the user to interact with us? We start making user stories that basically tell us step by step what does the client is going to do into our system. We create each step, we add all those user stories into the backlog, and we decided which user stories or who is going to make it, and start the sprint. The sprint could be 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, depends the team, the methodology. Usually we got 24 hours feedback from the leaders. And after that sprint, the idea is that we already have a new functionality, totally right, totally working, and it's frequently just ready for the client to use that new functionality. A few tools that actually are really helpful are, first of all, like the global people that take care of making sure that you're doing a great work into projects are these three, into software specifically. We have CMMI, that it's practically more related specifically with software, with specific softwares. We have PMI, Project Management Institute. It has a book. It's actually into the 7th edition, if I'm not wrong. And it practically tells you like, well, if you have a problem like this, you need to start doing this, this, this. It has actually like developments, dominions, and it basically give you a guide, like a frame, a setting to make it easy and workful. We also have ETL that tell you, well, you are doing things right, but how right you're doing it. Which level of ETL do you have? If you have a project of servers, if you have a project of something, you need to follow some guidelines and to give a record of it. And if you get like an ideal certification of level 3, level 4, that means you're basically one of the biggest and better makings people into software. developing. Now I want to show you like an example, from a job. Like this is an example. For example, I have this user story. I'm sorry, it's in Spanish. I work in Spanish.
It's okay. Just
From
make sure
now,
you it
so
very easily, because I have seen this before, but we have many students who have never seen this before.
yeah,
So can you explain it from zero, please? Thank you.
yeah. This is Jira. This is a software development, but also works like if any of you guys want to try like any kind of this tool for something else, you can practically use it for any kind of project. Like if you want to make a Kanban project, if you want to make a personal project, you can make your own project. For example, here I'm going to create a project. If I want to make it like for personal, I can make a blank project, following the tasks. I can organize my own personal tasks each way. Has a lot of information for any kind of project you want to make. It's free actually for a small team, so it's really useful if you want to learn, if you want to use it for yourself, to manage yourself, your time, and everything you have to do through the day. This is really great. Has many ways to show. One is the Kanban. It has many ways to do it, but practically this it's following the Scrum. So I'm going to focus on this one. As I was telling you, we start making the user story. We start writing like, oh, well, this is my user story. I said, as each kind of user, I want to have this menu. I want to have this screen, these interactions. I want that after this, it takes me to this other screen, this other screen. And we also have something called the backlog. This backlog is practically empty, but it allows you to put like in the backlog, I have this new story, user story, and I want to put it into the sprint, the second sprint. So I can just grab it and let it go. And it will be actually just programmed for the time. So I just came here and I came back to the date, and this new one actually appears there. You can actually assign those tags to someone. You could write like the description of each thing, and you can follow even the code. You can connect this to GitHub, to any kind of self-development tool you have. Also, all the everything that you want about the prototyping, about everything, you can have all at once into one same platform. Of course, it's a lot of other platforms that help you with that, but this one, I think that it's one of the free and best ones. And I guess that's it. I hope you understand me, and I help you to understand a little bit more about software development into Agile frameworks.
Thank you so much, Roxana. I actually have to thank you because, again, for many of us who do have an idea about what this is amazing. And actually, for those of you who got a little lost, don't worry. We're going to, we don't want you to become experts on what Roxana and Iurii evidently are experts in, because that's not the purpose of this class. It's just for you to try to understand how, for example, now that Roxana shared how projects are done, it's a different mindset. And because this comes from software, from working with, as you said, for example, Toyota is your client, right? And they're asking you to create a software with something, a very specific characteristic. The way the information technology teams work, the rest of us in other areas are learning from them. And can you go back to the previous one, Roxana? Go back 1 or 2 slides, just 1 or 2 slides before, because I also would like you there. Stop there for a minute. No, no, go back again. Not where, no, back again. Could you please, the board, can we go there? Okay, there you go. Okay, to the Kanban board. Could you please just share a little bit, because in other areas, like in other type of projects that are not technology related now, what we're trying to do is, what can we learn from this information technology environment, which we know it's so quick and so fast? You mentioned, for example, some sprints are 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on the team, if I understood that correctly, Roxana. Yes. And the objective, remember, of those sprints, and we're going to go back to explaining that again, class, is to stop and what are we doing? How are we doing? Do not wait until a year, until the whole project, the whole thing is done to realize, oh, you know what? We should have done that differently when mistakes cannot be fixed again. And this is something that I hope everyone learns how to deal with. Could you explain, for example, that Kanban word? Because now, even in construction, there are some other areas in which now we use those words because we realized in general business management that lack of communication and not being able to be updated on recent information would lead us to make decisions that were outdated or recent or to decisions that were not relevant anymore. So could you please very simple and with very easy words try to explain this Kanban word, because I also think, guys, and we're going to be using Jira actually. I'm so glad you mentioned that because we're going to be in the future doing some practices on our own, how we can get organized using this type of software. Because again, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, in the dinosaur era, we didn't have this. So now I don't see any excuse for not being well organized or not well communicated when we have this type of software, right? So Roxana, could you explain this a little bit for us, please?
Well, the Kanban board usually has three columns. One is the to-do. The to-do is all the tasks that we haven't started yet, but we know that we have to start to do. We know that to get the product done at the end of the day, we need to get those steps done. So when we decide to start a new project, we take that task and we move it into progress. Once it is into progress, there are many steps. There could be many people like making comments on it, making reviews, adding codes, adding storyboards.
Actually, you can see the names. You see, for
Yeah,
example, you can see Jonas, for example, or Leslie or Jules. These are examples, right? Yes.
yeah. Also, once it is apparently done, usually this word is moving from the in progress to the done column once it's already reviewed by almost everyone, by the QA, the quality assurance people, the manager, and maybe a client side or another stakeholder. And it's take it and well, it is done. But after this is done, they usually have to need like any instruction, any notes to make sure like, oh, well, we already make this. These have like these endpoints. These have these requirements. These need this thing. If you want to start this other to do. So they usually put like all these comments outside the board and lets many comments. For example, many times happen that you put something there that it's not already done. So someone take a look at it because it's trying to do something with that work and it's telling you like, hey, I was trying to use it and it didn't work. So you need to take it back to the to-do or to the in progress and start to fixing that again.
You so much, Roxana. And in a minute, I'll give Iurii also, of course, the opportunity to share. But I think what I would like everyone, please, to maybe try to learn or try to, just by looking at this is one way of getting organized that is going to help you even personally, because just like Roxana mentioned, Jira, for example, is free and you can even use it for your personal, for your personal planning, for your own personal projects. And I believe this is a practice that is going to help you the people around you also. Okay, try to adapt to this new way of working now, because this is what we do now in most organizations. Thank you so much, Roxana. Does anyone have a question for Roxana before we go to Iurii? Because I think, can you help me also give Roxana a big hand, because I think she did a wonderful job explaining and sharing with us, of course, the way they are working. Very good. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, dear Roxana. Questions for Roxana? No? Okay. Thank you, Roxana. Then I'm going to go. Thank you. Very well done. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to go now to make a presenter. Iurii, I'm going to make a presenter. And while Iurii is getting the presentation ready, let me also share this. If you go, for example, to the PMI, you were talking about the Project Management Institute, which I'm a member of, you as students actually can be a member. You can become a member of the PMI in any part of the world, okay? Because the PMI is it's an international, if you Google it right now, Project Management Institute, it's an international organization, but it also has local charters. Like here we have the West Coast Charter, okay? Or chapter, sorry. And we attend the conferences, they have events, they have speakers. You can actually volunteer and learn with them different things. So I suggest you start like take notes about these organizations, because in the future, and more if you're going to be working in change management, it's inevitable for you to know about this. So I'm going to be quiet. Now I see that we can begin. Yes, you're ready, Iurii. So I'm going to mute myself and go for it, dear Iurii.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about how Agile is used in real life. First of all, we need to understand what kind of company we are dealing with. For example, there are different customers. Someone can be, for example, if we are dealing with a modern and flexible company, then we can use Agile everywhere as we want. As in a management textbook, um, worked in sprints, and at the end of each sprint agree on results with the customer, set goals for the next sprint. But if the customer's company is really large, clumsy, and possibly state-owned, then it would be more correct to use more classical approach. Divide project into certain stages and communicate with the customer in this paradigm. And within the team, you can still work in sprints and use agile things. The fact is that for large companies, it's easier and cheaper to agree uh, a new project at the end of the project rather than every sprint. Believe me, if they want to completely remake something, they will easily agree for a new project and buy twice and pay twice for it. So on this slide, you can see the main stages of software development. In average large company, in a fairly straightforward manner. To be honest, we usually work with successful and large companies because only they can afford our services. So we can see the first step is pre-sale activities, then we sign a contract, receiving technical specification and speak about it. Then we make a project solution document. Stage number 5 is actually writing code and implementing it. Then we can see an acceptance of completed work, then edits, and usually we sign extra contract to make something.
But your point 9, I'm really looking forward to hear what that is for, because I know what that means.
Yes, at the point 9 we start um, from point 4. We do project solution again, then actually we write code again, and etc. So then we accept completed work again. If everything okay, we make an education process of users of our customer, and then we provide an IT support to make our code running for a long time. And on this slide, you can see the main stages.
Sense of humor, by the way. Very well done. And I think Roxana is going to understand that that little image and tell us, yes, good sense of humor.
So this slide, I will tell you about elements of flexible methodologies that we use in our work. Sometimes we go deeper into aspects of these methodologies, sometimes less, but the basic elements are always exist. So we use daily meetings to explain yesterday activities, department meetings once a week, to share global news and problems or successes, something else. Actually, we work in sprints. Then we have retro meetings to discuss our results, the results of the sprint. And we think that Kanban is really useful. As Roxana said, we have a backlog, stories to do, tasks in progress, something to verify, and done. So, in summary, I would like to say you that in real life, a mixture of waterfall and agile is always used. Pure methodology is never used. After all, for working with some clients, a classical approach is more profitable and convenient, while for others, more flexible methodologies are better. So, in fact, this is the idea of a flexible approach. Do your work as circumstances require. So, that's all I want to tell you. I hope you like it.
Yes, actually, Yuri, thank you so much, because can you go back when you talk about flexible approach? You say here, yes, thank you. In your case, in your organization, in your company, yes, thank you. Thank you for helping me give. Thank you, Margarita. Yay, well done. Thank you. So you're sharing, yes, that we're using, in your case, you're using Canva methodology. So do you use these boards? What kind of software do you use, or how do you do it? Do you also use Jira, or how do you do it?
Oh, we have Jira, Bittrex 24, and something else. Jira is more convenient, I think.
Once again, Jira, I think it's the one shared by the two of you guys. And again, for the rest of the class students, that doesn't mean, just like I have said before, it doesn't mean that this type of flexible way of working may work for absolutely everything. But I suggest and I recommend, if you can Google and you can go to Jira, and you can actually sign up, as Roxana said, for the free account. It's important for you to learn how this can help you improve the way in which we are working. Now, Yuri, could you share a little bit, just a little bit, just like Roxana shared? You said also you have weekly meetings, you said, right, in your profession. But you also said that you are very expensive. The quality of the work you do is very expensive, and not everyone can afford you, right? Did I
Yes.
understand that correctly? Very good. That's great. Okay, so my question for both of you, Roxana and Yuri, how did you learn to be as effective and efficient as you are right now? How did you learn? What was your learning path to getting to where you are right now? And I'm going to start with Yuri first, and then I'll go to Roxana. How did you become savvy in this way of working? How did you learn? Can you tell us your first experiences working with this? What were your challenges, and how did you learn, Yuri?
Actually, I use best practices of my colleagues, uh, and I'm trying not to be lazy optionally.
But at the beginning, when you didn't know, how old were you when you started learning about this, or how long ago did you start learning about how to work in this agile environment?
So I think that best practice of maybe Western companies, for example, we have been implementing for a long time German software, SAP, as you know, and they have uh, really best practices of how to do it.
From
And
Germany, did you mention from Germany?
yes,
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. And you learned by trying to understand how they do it and then applying that to your specific situations, correct?
yes, but it's not very useful actually because we have to customize this software every time because we have different business processes in different countries. So actually, we rewrite the code of this software every time.
Of course, I understand. Thank you so much, Yuri. Roxana, how was your learning path for you to get to where you are? Because evidently you are already an expert in agile environments, but how did you get to where you are right now? Like how how were those first stages of your learning process to feel confident now working with this type of agile environment?
Well, in my case, since I just started my degree at college, they start teaching me all the frameworks that we have. The waterfall, the Scrum, each one. So from the just beginning, we start doing projects from all kinds with all kinds of clients. So just from starting college, from first semester, they were like, "Oh, you have to do this," and we were like, "How? What? What?" But everything turns out well. We also have great mentors as teachers. That most of my actual teachers, they work into the area. They're like really high profile people. So they're really great for explaining how to teach you. Also, usually into the companies, we have like a senior positions and they gave you like, oh, you can do it better if you use this, or you just ask and they don't have any problem about telling you those things. Also, like Colombia is not really well developed into the software kind of thing, but at the same time, because it's not like really so deep into before constructed softwares, they try to use the most modern things to keep it updated nowadays. So that is a great advantage because most of the new companies try to use the most modern methodologies.
I have to tell you something because when I visited Bogota, and again, Colombia, of course, is a large city. I'm honest when I'm going to tell you this. Some of the most capable executives and creative minds are in Colombia. I am impressed. I have to say that when I visited Colombia for the first time and I trained directors, operational directors, I was impressed with the high standards and the high quality of how people are used to working in Colombia. And I think sometimes we may, when we are from other countries, we may have different perceptions. But I just have to say, Roxana, you have very high standards to compare to, because I know there are a lot of very creative minds in Colombia. And I think you're just very, both of you, of course, Iurii, because I also bet you also have mentors, and there are also people, okay, who have guided you and have, given you directions, guidance about where to go. So I think both of you are just very lucky and very fortunate to be learning this. Anything else you would like to share, Iurii?
Yes, actually, I agree that I learn a lot of from my bachelor degree, and actually, it's really cool when you face different tasks at your job, but it's actually like in university.
Actually, I have to tell you, you are very lucky and fortunate because right now you're studying, I think, for universities and colleges that are now bringing this into the regular degrees, where in some other universities, and I have to say it, this is really sad, not all universities, I think, are up to date with this curriculum, like your colleges and your universities. So yes, you're very lucky in that sense. And all of you guys, the rest of you, again, I know this might sound very specialized. I don't expect you to become, to specialize or to in agile environments or to become PMP certificate in professionals or anything, but at least trying to understand this way of working. Why is this coming from software development? Because this changes, everything is so fast that I know that's exactly the reason why this started again in the 2000s, just a few decades ago. And now we are all trying to adopt and implement those practices into some other kind of field. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the time of your presentation. We have learned so many things. Let me go back to our presentation because actually what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about what the rest of you found regarding our change management models. But let's do this because it's almost time for a break. Let's do this. As you can see in our presentation, we're going to be watching a video. It's a very short video. So let's do this. I am sharing the video, okay, on the chat. You can find the link on chat, okay. So let's do this. You can disconnect your cameras, that's okay. You can go watch your video, and then we're gonna take our break, our 10 minutes of a break, okay? We're gonna take that time. So go watch your video, please take notes, okay? And when we come back from our break at 8 o'clock time in Mexico City, okay, depending where you are, it's the time sharp. And then when we come back, we're going to be sharing what you learned, what you consider important from this little video. It's very short. It's very short YouTube video. It's a warm-up. And then I'm going to be dividing you in teams so you can share with your team members. We're going to make 2 teams. You can share with your team members which are those change management models that you found, okay? So see you in about 15 minutes, all right? Watch the video, take your break, and see you in 15 minutes. Thank you. Bye. About also what you researched on the change models, change management models. Now, I'm going to divide you in teams right now so you can share with each other what you found about these change management models. And then we're going to actually talk a little bit more about change management. As I already said from the beginning, we're not supposed to finish today. This is a topic that we'll be developing in the next few days. So let me divide you, and actually, you know what? The video is very interesting. Let's talk about the video before I divide you in groups, okay? And that's going to be kind of our last activity when I divide you in groups. And I'm going to put actually Iurii in one team and Roxana in another one. So the rest of the students are going to be sharing, of course, with you what they found on their change management models. You can present the rest of the student, that's okay. But before we move on, I would like you to share what you found interesting about Simon Sinek. And I know you probably have heard or have seen or have watched some of Simon Sinek videos, books, TED Talks, etc. And he actually specializes in organizational change, and he works with a lot of corporations around the world in exactly helping them deal with change. And if anyone would like to share what they thought about the video, I would really appreciate it. So let's see, Gabriela, Alex, Margarita, Anna, Angel, Paola, if anyone would like to share, please, about this video, I would really appreciate it. So I'm going to mute myself, and let's go with, let's say, Anna. Did you have time to watch it all? Yes? What did you find interesting about this video, Anna?
Yes, I like the part of he said the fear stopped us, because it's totally true. When we let the fear win, we can do nothing. So, for example, this is experience that I live in right now. If I let the fear win, I stop it. So I like this part of the video.
Of course, and thank you, first of all, Hannah, for sharing, because actually during our semester, you moved from Brazil to Portugal. Am I right? And of course, I know, and it's okay. We're all going to feel this fear. And actually, he also talks about emotions, right? And how sometimes in organizations, we don't take those elements in consideration. Very good, Anna. Thank you for sharing. Now, I don't know, Alex, Angel, Gabriela, or Margarita, or Paola, if you will. Yes, Paola, go for it.
Okay, what I found interesting about the video is that you can force someone to accept change, but you can create like this demand that makes them change voluntarily. So it's like, I don't know, it's interesting for me, you know, that
It's
even it's also a market, even in the inside of the company. So it's interesting.
same theories apply. Actually, did you watch that video in this guy who is dancing, you know, in the middle of a place, and then everybody's thinking maybe he's crazy. But also, that's why I wanted to share this video with you after we had covered the theory of diffusion. Remember when we analyzed, if you go to our previous presentations, if you go to our theory of diffusion, remember the early adopters? And we said that's maybe just a few of them. And he actually mentions those are the Elon Musks, you know, those are the ones considered like crazy ones, because nobody wants to be the first one. Usually the first one is going to be considered like, wait a minute. But did you see in the video? And this is a very good example how after one starts dancing, 2 or 3 also join, and then later on everybody joins. And I think that's related exactly what you just said, dear Paola. Very good. One more comment before we start sharing about our change management models. It could be Gabriela, Alex, Angel, who also have Margarita. Anything else about the video? That's okay. Now, if that's okay, if you didn't have time to watch it all, make sure you watch it. I just would like to mention this. An infinite mindset, because we usually talk about growth mindset, yes, but having this infinite mindset, meaning it's always welcoming new things, always, not only growth, but infinite, always open to change. So that's something I wanted to make sure you all understood. So I'm going to be dividing. Let me stop sharing so I can create these teams. And I would really appreciate Paola, Ana, Alex, Angel, Gabriela, and Margarita. If you can get your sharing, you can share presentation or you can just talk about it. Don't worry. I'm going to divide you in 2 teams. Okay, so give me a minute because I'm going to make these teams active. Give me a minute, give me a minute, give me a minute. I'm getting there. Be patient, be patient. Here we go. I hope this works because sometimes it takes me a while. Here we go. Okay. Okay, here we go. 2 and 1. Okay. So Alex, Ana, Roxana, Alex, Ana, Roxana, and Margarita. That's going to be 1. And then breakout, assign. Okay. Again, I'm going to repeat Alex, Ana, Margarita, and Roxana. You're going to be in breakout session 1. And breakout session 2, we have Angel, Gabriela, Paola, and Iurii. Okay, guys. So you're going to be put into the breakout sessions. I'll be coming to each session too. So could you please share with the rest of the classmates what you found about these change management models? Again, you can share your presentation if you want, or you can just talk about it, okay? So let's give for this activity 10 to 15 minutes for everyone to share. Yes, I'm going to be coming and visiting some of you. Let's see what we found. And good luck. See you in a bit. Angel, I think you need to accept the breakout session, Angel. You need to click. I cannot put you. Yes, can you just accept? There you go. Okay, everyone. Everybody should be now back in our general classroom. I hope you had time to share your findings and the most important objective of your researching, which are these change management models, is for you to understand that not one again is better than the other, but one of them may apply to different circumstances and different situations in groups and teams and organizations differently. So what we're going to be doing now, we're going to continue with our class only for the next 10, maybe 15 minutes, okay? So we can continue next class, don't worry. So the first thing I would like you to understand is that there are three main types of organizational changes: the developmental, the transitional, and the transformational. Depending on the type of organizational change that we may have, maybe the the change management model that you may suggest or propose may be one better depending on the type of organizational change we may be dealing with. Sorry, so let's begin only with this part, and I'm going to go to the developmental. Developmental has a personal part, and of course it has the team organizational part too. First of all, developmental has to do with something that is in process. We are all actually in process. And I'm going to go back to our video on Simon. And he actually said, and I'm going to quote, he said, in this infinite mindset that we should have, in which we are used to change being our regular norm. And that is exactly what we're talking about when we talk about developmental change. Now, I'm going to talk here about how, and I actually shared this with you guys. If you knew me yesterday, you don't know me anymore because I grow every day. Do you agree with this? I'm going to read it again. If you knew me yesterday, of course, it's figurative speech, is not literal speak, it's not literal speech, okay? But it's trying to say that if you knew me yesterday, you don't know me anymore because I grow every day. Meaning, whenever we stop seeing each other, and we may have actually friends, you may have friends that, you know, they have been your long friends, but only those friends who are all the time with you, who are close with you, those are actually the ones who have known you, you know, like all through your old developmental stages. But if you stopped actually seeing someone, even if he or she was your best friend, when you see him or see her after 1 or 2 years, it's not the same person. We grow every day. So why is this important to know? Because first we have to know that ourselves, we are part of this change management towards ourselves, okay? And actually this little model that I'm sharing with you is the first personal thing that happens when we're facing a situation. Actually, Anna shared that she felt fear, right, when moving to Portugal a few weeks ago. And that's inevitable. It's frozen in the current state of affairs. But then it comes the second stage, which is let's unfreeze. Okay, let's react. Let's start doing something. And now we are very lucky in this group because many of you go from the first to the second stage very easily because now you are part of this infinite mindset of change. Then we go to a transition, changing from living in one place, now living in another. And now I love this. Refreeze in a new state of affairs. Now you are used to living in Portugal, for example. And remember, I told you actually going back in your case, Paula, to Mexico, that's going to be the challenging part. Or like you shared, Angel, once you were living, I believe Arizona is what you have shared in the past. When you moved back to Tijuana, that was difficult again. Why? Because you were already in a new state of affairs and you were used to that again. So anyway, this is part of the developmental change in a personal stage, but then we also have the organizational. I'm only going to cover those 3 points, guys, and we're going to stop today's class. We will continue with the rest. Let me just finish this. Any changes made in the company's policies or in the process development, but these have to do with things that are already established and in process, okay? So this is not from zero. This is already in process. And I'm going to read, developmental change is the simplest way of change. Why? Because it improves what you're currently doing in an organization. So I'm going to go back to your situations. For example, Alex, in your team. I'm sure that, or Roxana, I know you're not in the swimming team anymore, but you are part of teams, right? Okay, very good. So this has to do with things that are already happening, yes, and this have to do with established things that are happening, but we are dealing with this change in a, let's say we have something new, we adapt, something new, we adapt. Even this freeze and refreeze, this happens, but when we are already doing something. So we are already part of a situation, we're already part of a process, and then these incremental changes start happening. We start adapting to these changes. Now, the transitional is very important because the transitional is really an and we transition into something new. Actually, that's why I'm sharing here that the transitional change has to do with mergers, automatizations, or acquisition. Let's imagine, for example, transition. I'm going to go to Roxana and Iurii. If one of your softwares, one of these, for example, softwares that you are developing, how are they implemented into the organizations? Do they have like a, okay, starting Monday, we finish and we begin using the new one? Or do you have a transition in which you are maybe using the old software and you overlap with the new software and we start changing little by little? How is this happening? I don't know if you're aware of this, Roxana and Iurii, when you are going to be using new software in these companies you develop software for. How do they do it?
Actually, transitionally, sometimes we use actually both systems, new and old one.
Okay, so this can overlap, right? You're at the same time using the old one while everybody's getting used to the new one.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Roxana, what about your situation? Is it also transitional? How is this working?
I would say it depends. It depends, first of all, of the client and the conditions the client have. Sometimes it's pretty common that many companies here doesn't have a previous software and have all in paper management. So we have to start all from zero. So it's not like we we just start something and they start following the guide. But also we have many cases that many companies have already a system. So it also depends. Because many times they are the intellectual owners of all the code and they have all the source code for it. And we just need to get in and to adapt many new requirements that they have. And sometimes we need to do the whole process of putting something new, do the whole capacitation, indication, instructions to each person, and start passing the information from one side to another. And once the all information is on one side, we just cut it on once and put it the other one after all the process of instruction and teaching.
And actually, that my second question is, do you also do it, or do these companies you have worked for? Again, I know the answer, it depends because every company does it differently. But remember the video said that sometimes you get the early adopters, or you only get maybe one department or maybe one team or one group to try it first. How do you do that, both Iurii and Roxana? Because I know it depends on the clients, but what kind of experience have you seen? Of course, even Simon said in the video, when you implement for everyone, you're going to get a lot of people, reacting negatively to change. But when you do it little by little and you cause the demand that Paola was talking about, so how have you seen this happening, Roxana, in your situation? About is it with all teams, with only some teams? What do you think?
Well, usually, as I said before, it depends. But lastly, Colombia, it's a really structural place. So what the owner says, it's what everyone else does. So many times they don't have like, oh, let's make a pilot test to check how it did go by. So it usually doesn't work that way. We also have to be like really careful with the IT and with the support system that we are offering our client, because every inconvenience that they have during like the first 2 months, we have to go help them, deal with them, and we're on each step of the process. But it's not like an overlap or like a pilot trial, no, because usually when people here hire to a high software development, they need to work on it as fast as they could. They don't
They
take time
implement
for
it.
trials. Yeah,
They
they just want it done.
in a
Yeah.
transitional stage, like, Okay, very good. Got it. Okay, very good. Actually, and we're going to stop here. This is going to be the last part in the transitional change. This requires, and I think this is exactly what you're talking about, Roxana. Transitional change requires designing and implementing a new state. It's a new software, right? And it has to be implemented as quickly as possible. So we're going to launch it. So I believe this has to do with what you are just sharing. The organization simultaneously must dismantle and emotionally let go of the old because we're going to adopt the new one, right? So in this case, because of technology, etc., this happens very quickly. Very good. We're not going to have time to go to the larger mergers and acquisitions, but if you are interested in this should be the link that you want to go for. And let me finish with transformational change. This is going to be the last part. We're finishing our class in a minute, and we're actually going to watch the video when we come back next class, okay? So transformational change is the most dramatic change in an organization because this is going to affect the fundamental framework of an organization. So I know, for example, in software, this may not happen. It's not so transformational that what you do changes everything. This is usually a change of values, philosophy, a new name maybe for an organization, etc. So usually these transformational changes also had to do with how pestle, remember we talked about pestle in some of the previous classes, how the politics, the economics, the social, the technology, the environmental, and the legal elements are going to force the organization to make changes. And that is the transformational part. So we're going to leave it there. Okay, we're going to start next class with addressing transformational again, because a lot of companies actually had to go through transformational change after the pandemic, right? I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay. And let me just make sure that I also mention something before we go. What I would like to mention is that I am so proud of you that I'm going to be sharing with you in a minute. As you know, probably, and I think I have told you this before, Mr. Jenkins, who not only happens to be my business partner, but also my life partner, okay, he has a podcast. And I think I have shared this with you before. The reason why I want to share this with you is because I talked about you in this podcast, and I'm going to cry because I shared that all of you inspired me. That's the link with the podcast. So I hope you get the chance to watch our podcast because I mentioned there that you inspire me because you're such amazing students and so committed, and you're all going through so many things and you still have time to be here. So I just want to tell you that I shared with the world and on LinkedIn and with everybody that you inspire me. So I hope you get the chance to watch a little bit of our podcast. It's kind of ridiculous at times, but I hope you get to listen how proud I am of you. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you next Wednesday. We'll meet here. We'll continue with the class, no homework, no assignment for now. And let's meet next class and let's come ready to collaborate and participate, okay? Thank you. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, good night to those of you going to sleep, and see you next class. See you on Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
Guys, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.